one of the things that God expects of us, each one of us, is for us to do his will. For us to get active, to be activated, to do his will. In whatever way he has called us or allowed us to be. As long as you have life, there's so much more that can happen. There are too many persons who complain, but they won't do anything apart from complaining. I believe God has called us to be active in his service, in whatever way he has blessed us. Many of us have tremendous gifts and talents and abilities. And we complain we don't have anything. You know, I believe if God has blessed you with the ability to sing or to play music or to teach in whatever way, whether you teach in day school or Sunday school, use your gifts to the honor and glory of God. Whatever way, however small it is, because one of the things the hymn writer says to us, it says, little is much when what? When God is in it. Little is much. And so it is good. Our text today is a call to action. In fact, I don't know how many of you read the passage at the back of the bulletin, and you see this was done by the Reverend Dr. Dion Christopher. And some of the things that he's saying here, I actually read the back here only this morning and realized that one or two things that he's saying there that will come out in our message today. A call to action is a clear and compelling instruction that encourages us to take the next step. In other words, to get up and embark on the assignment that we have been given. Embark on the assignment. You must clearly articulate what you want people to do and why they should do it. I believe whenever persons get an assignment, they need to know clearly what they need to do. Just don't say that you need to do this, but you don't guide them. All teachers will know, wherever you teach, that it is important, especially when you're doing a new lesson, to be able to guide those before you, to appreciate what you're saying and what you need them to do. You need to clearly speak it to them. Sometimes, you see, people have been given assignments without any guidance. It is like setting up people to fail. But when we come to the Church of God, we must be very clear in whatever we are doing. Jesus did not leave anything to chance. He modeled before his disciples what he wanted them to become. Yes, he modeled before them what he wanted them to become. For 3 years in his earthly ministry, Jesus used every imaginable thing to teach object lessons to his disciples. He knew that there would come a time when he would not be physically with them. He gave them on-the-job training. If you are a skilled workman, a carpenter, a mason, a mechanic, a painter, whatever it is, or you repair electronics, whatever that job is, and you take someone with you to work along with you. They did not go to college like you, but they want to know the job, and you want to pass that information on to them. You need to be able to demonstrate to them what you're doing and why you do what you do. You know, the first time I had to get a car started with a jumper. Lord of mercy, I didn't know left from right. I didn't know which one to put where. And so, you know, if you put black on red, you're in trouble. Or if you put red on black, you're in trouble. And the first time I did it, there were some serious sparks because I didn't know. I really had no idea. Until when the mechanic said, "You're foolish. You put red on red and black on black." You know? And you get your car started with a jumper cable. So for those of us who are driving and still don't know how you use the jumper cable, sorry I didn't walk in mine this morning. All right? When you put it on your batteries, black must go with black and red must go with red. Very important. That's why they have the colors, because they could simply say negative and positive. But along with all of that, they give colors. And it's important for us to teach whoever it is, whatever job that we're in, that others are coming up under us. And that is exactly what Jesus did. He had his disciples on the job training. They did not go to any seminary or any college. Hear what Jesus says to them. If you think I'm telling stories this morning, can we see Matthew 4 and verse 19? Can you read with me and hear what Jesus is saying here? And he said unto them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." So he did not say, "I'm going to send you to college next week so you know how to catch fish or how to catch men." He says, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." He was calling his disciples to leave their old lives and participate in spreading the gospel. This verse occurs early in Jesus' ministry as he walks by the Sea of Galilee and calls his first disciples, Simon Peter and Andrew, who were fishermen by trade. Jesus invites them to follow him, promising a new purpose. Instead of catching fish, he said to them, "You will now catch people." And so the phrase, fishers of men, is a metaphor. Just as fishermen cast their nets to gather fish, Jesus' disciples are called to spread the gospel and to bring people into God's kingdom. All of us. To gather people and to bring them into God's kingdom. So it's not just the pastor's responsibility. All of us as people of God. You know the songwriter says, Jesus bids us shine with a pure, clear light, like a little candle burning in the night. In this world of darkness, so let us what? You in your small corner and I in mine. So what he's saying here, the songwriter is saying, each one of us can do something. Each one of us can model. Each one of us can teach. Each one of us can lead. and help others to see Jesus. The net in this text that Jesus spoke to his disciples about, follow me, the net represents the message of salvation. And the fish symbolize souls of men and women who are to be reached with the teachings of Christ. So Matthew 4:19 is both a historical account of Jesus calling his first disciples and a timeless call for all Christians, all believers, to participate in sharing the gospel, becoming fishers of men in their own lives. Each one of us. So in his teaching, Jesus was preparing his followers for his death and resurrection and participation to receive the Holy Spirit. So hear what Jesus said to them. You see, if we're going to go on a mission for God, there are some requirements. Acts 1 and verse 4. Hear what Jesus said. Now, this is after the resurrection. And if you're able to see the screen, please read with me. Because there are two other scriptures I want you to read with me. Acts 1 and verse 4. What did Jesus say? Being assembled together with them, he commanded them not to depart Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you have heard from me. Do not depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you have received from me. In other words, you must wait to be empowered. You must wait to be equipped. You must wait to be filled. You must wait to be energized. That's what Jesus is literally saying. You must not and you cannot go on your own. You must wait to be energized, to be empowered, to be filled, to be equipped. A car cannot run or move without gas. Well, these days they have these electric cars and so on. But you know the electric cars, you have to plug them into something to be energized. So it's still energy, either diesel or gas, that is still powering them. I don't know if you have ever gone anywhere and see the vehicles actually parked up and they are plugged into something. They are literally charging them up. All right? So in other words then, so follow me here. If you go outside and there's no gas in your car, you think you're going to get to move? You're not going anywhere. So a car needs gas to propel it. It needs a gas to run. All right? Or else it's going to stop on the road. Sometimes some people stop on the road going up Raccoon Hill. And it's not always anything with the engine. Sometimes it's a little gas it needs. Because I have seen many people who find themselves at the gas station, and when you're passing, they have thrown a little gas and so on. All right? So it is important. I said Jesus did on-the-job training with his disciples. And so for all of us, it is important for us also, to be on the job. That's how we're going to know what is needed, what needs to be done. So the imagery Jesus wanted his disciples to grasp was that you need to be energized. You need to be empowered. You need to be filled. And then he said to them in Acts 1 and verse 8, this is the other text I want us to read. When you have been empowered, read with me Acts 1 and 8 and what it says. But you will receive power. Just 1 minute. You will receive what? Power. Yes. Let's continue then. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you. And you shall be witnesses to me in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and to the end of the earth. So what Jesus is saying here, wait for the power. When you receive the power, then you will go out and be witnesses to me in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. This was their marching orders. Yes, it was a call to action. Now that you receive power, now go. Go and do that which I require you to do. It is also our marching orders. You might have heard me say before that every group within the church exists for ministry. Every single group. Whatever the name of the group, if you're not here for ministry, then you're not to be a part of the church. You're not a social club. A social club doesn't have to do any ministry. But most, if not all, social clubs do ministry. So can you imagine, within the church, whatever group, whether you're part of the choir, the men's group, one of the many women's groups, the youth group, whatever the name of the group in the church, that group exists for ministry, to do ministry. The soup kitchen ministry is one of the most important ministries that we have at Memorial. So all our groups exist to do ministry. I know many of us are members of social groups like the Lions Club and the Optimists and Soroptimists and so on, and Kiwanis and all those groups are social organizations. On the other hand, our group, our church, all our groups exist for ministry. Jesus takes center stage in everything that we do. Everything that we do. And so, here Jesus is calling his disciples into action. They're marching orders. Remember, this is after the resurrection, and Jesus is now appearing to his disciples. He then ascends to heaven. And listen to what Acts 1:9 to 11 says. Now, when he had spoken these things, while they watched, he was taken up to heaven, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, who said, Men of Galilee, why do you stand gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus who was taken up from you into heaven will so come in like manner as you saw him go into heaven. And then our text for today from Matthew 28, 16 to 20. This becomes so relevant. The 11 disciples went away into Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, notice what happened? They worshipped him, but some what? But some doubted. They worshipped, but some doubted because, wait, I thought this man was crucified. And yes, he was raised from the dead. But we are now seeing him again. they're saying. But some were so overawed by the experience. They worshiped, but some doubted. And Jesus came. Notice the marching orders. Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go, therefore, he says, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to do what? To observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. When you are empowered and you go on a mission for God, notice what it says at the end. Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So in other words, make disciples as you go. Each one touch another as you go. Baptize, teach. And how are we going to teach? We are going to teach by the way we live, by the things we do, by the people whom we embrace and love, by those whom we show kindness to. Because when you show kindness to somebody, you're doing it to God as well. All right? So this passage records Jesus' final instructions to his disciples after his resurrection, emphasizing his authority and the mission to make disciples of all nations. What then do we make of this text this morning on Trinity Sunday? Galilee, where Jesus began his ministry, symbolizes both a return to the origins of his teaching and a new beginning for his followers. Jesus had already passed this way, and he's saying to his disciples, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. The disciples, as we just read, experienced a mix of awe and worship and doubt upon seeing the risen Jesus. And this reflected the tension between their faith and the extraordinary nature of the resurrection. Jesus was now raised from the dead, but Jesus is still appearing to his disciples because he had an assignment for them. There's a mission to be fulfilled. So Jesus begins by asserting, and this is so important this morning, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me, to nobody else but me. That's what Jesus is saying. And this reflected for me, or it affirms his divine sovereignty and legitimizing the mission he is about to entrust to his disciples. My brothers and sisters, you have children, you have grandchildren. Please, whatever you have for your children, give them now. Or at least put it in a will. Don't let your children fight one another when you die. Put it in a will somewhere, or a trust, whatever. If you don't want to give them anything, then spend off all. But if you want to give your children something, put it in writing. Just don't say, boy, I have a half-acre land down Savan, I'm giving you that. But you never put it in writing. Can you imagine if you die, what will happen? I've seen the worst when people die. I've also seen the best. But my humble advice is to put something in writing. And you know, you don't have to get an attorney to make your will. You can make your own will. As long as you sign it in the presence of two credible witnesses who also sign and date it. Very important. So I'm begging you this morning, because I've seen a lot in my time being a pastor. I've seen two brothers fight to the end after their father died. And the younger brother who started the fighting, when I say not physical fighting, he died before the older brother. So what he was fighting the older brother for, he didn't get, and everything was left to the older brother. The father didn't leave a will. Or, what did you say, a trust? Yes? Please. I'm telling you that. We don't have too much, but we have already made a will. Believe me. Very important. Because you don't want to be fighting in your grave and say, wish I had done X, Y, and Z. Turning in your grave is to see your son, your daughter, and so on fighting for what you leave behind. So, you know, Jesus asserts here, all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. So the command to go and make disciples of all nations emphasizes the universality of the gospel and the active role of believers in spreading Christ's teachings. Very, very important. So Jesus here provided assurance and empowerment for his disciples on the mission. You go after you have been empowered. Touch people everywhere. And this promise underscores the spiritual support that accompanies the church's mission. You know, it is easy to get discouraged when things are not going your way when serving the Lord. It is easy to give up. And it is easy to say, I can't bother with them people at Memorial. It's easy to say that. However, God calls us to be faithful. No matter what is happening, God calls us to be faithful, faithful to him. Listen what Paul says in 2 Corinthians 12 and verse 10. He says, therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am what? When I am weak, then I am strong in the Lord. And this shows Paul's dependence on Christ. His dependence on Christ for everything. And you and I need to depend on him every day of our lives. Here he emphasizes that his strength comes not from himself, but from Christ, especially during trials and suffering. Our text from Matthew 28 portrays the disciples' encounter with the risen Jesus. It affirms his authority and commissions them to make disciples of all nations through teaching, baptism, and obedience. This pivotal moment marked the beginning of their ministry to spread the gospel to the ends of the earth. Wherever you go, let people see and let people know that you are a child of God. Don't hide who you are. Be yourself. And people will see the true you come out. You see, Jesus gives clear directives to his disciples in this powerful passage, known as the Great Commission, to go forth and spread his teachings to all corners of the world, everywhere you go. Some will hate you and some will love you. Believe me. It's part of it. So Jesus emphasizes the universality and indeed the inclusivity of his message by instructing them to make disciples of all nations. So this command is a call to action for all followers of Christ to actively share God's love and teachings with others, regardless of their background or location.